Today we're going to discuss how a guy disappeared from a crowded bar. Today we're going to talk about the infamous Brian Shaffer case. This is one of the most well-known missing persons cases in the last 25 years that has come out of the United States. There's been much speculation about it, and out of all the cases I've reviewed, this is definitely one of the most strangest, bizarre, and scariest cases out there. So let's talk a little bit about Brian. Brian was in his second year of medical school at Ohio State University. He was 27 years old. He was 6'2", around 170 pounds, so a tall, athletic guy. Brian had a degree in microbiology, also from Ohio State University, an undergraduate degree. So he's a pretty smart guy. This is definitely someone who had options and a bright future, especially being in medical school. Brian also was reported to like the beach, a laid-back lifestyle. He made a social media post where he wanted to live on the beach and play in a band. He was a fan of Jimmy Buffett. He had a tattoo of Pearl Jam on his body as well. So he was pretty big into music. So in 2006, which is the year of his disappearance, Brian was just reeling from the death of his mother. His mother died of cancer 3 weeks before his disappearance. Many people have felt this is a significant piece of the puzzle in this case. It's obviously understandable. Many people feel that it really messed Brian up, and that's totally understandable. And Brian himself was reportedly really struggling with it. This death, his mother had died just 3 weeks before his disappearance from a very difficult disease of cancer. I believe it was bone cancer, and it looked incredibly painful to deal with. Brian was also in a relationship with another medical student. Her name was Alexis Wagner, and they had been together for around a year, so not a long relationship, but it was planned that over the spring break of his spring semester at the Ohio State Medical School, they were going to go on a trip to Florida as like a vacation. This was actually a gift his mother had given Brian before she passed away, as a last gift that she wanted to give to her son. Let's talk about the day of his disappearance. The day of his disappearance is generally credited as March 31st of 2006. Some also credit it as April 1st, as the last time he was seen was technically around 2 a.m., approximately 2 a.m. in the morning on April 1st, but many credit it as March 31st of 2006. This was the last Friday before spring breaks in Brian's school semester, so he did have some exams that day that he was finishing up. Brian started off the early evening meeting his father for a dinner at a restaurant where both of them talked and caught up with each other. All we really know from this restaurant visit is Brian's dad, which his name was Randy Shaffer, noticed his son looked to be quite tired from all the exams, probably cramming, staying up late to study, and Randy Shaffer did not want Brian to go out that night. He probably just wanted him to stay at home and rest and recover from his grueling finals week. But Randy felt it was not his place, as Brian was a 27-year-old man, to really tell him he couldn't go do certain things or go places. So Randy Shaffer basically just let him go out, even though he didn't really want him to. Probably just like say, hey, son, be careful. So he finished up his dinner with his dad, and him and a buddy named Clint Florence. His full name was William Clint Florence, but most people call him just Clint. I guess that is a nickname. Met up to go bar hopping in Columbus, Ohio. Brian also invited his brother, Derek Shaffer, to go out with them that night, but it appeared that Derek Shaffer and his significant other were going to, I believe, a comedy show. So he actually turned down the invitation. So Derek Shaffer, to this day, is reportedly feels really bad that he turned down the invitation to not go with his brother. But that's just something else that was in the story. So Brian was calling people to try to get other people to join them that night to go out bar hopping. So that night they went to some bars, had some shots along the way, Clint and Brian. And then eventually they hook up with another friend whose name was Meredith, and the three of them continue to go bar hopping. Around 1 a.m. where we see Meredith, Clint, and Brian go up the escalator to the Ugly Tuna Saloon. And a lot of YouTubers, podcasts don't really discuss the area surrounding this place. The Ugly Tuna Saloon appeared to be in what is called today South Campus Gateway in Columbus, Ohio. And it's actually like an entertainment complex. It's like a shopping mall. These are pretty prevalent across cities all over the U.S. They got like movie theater, fine dining, nightlife, apartments close by. So it wasn't just like a bar. This was almost like an entertainment complex, and that's why they're riding up an escalator to go to the bar, which was on the second level, which is a little unusual. You're typically not riding up escalators to go to bars. And this area was under construction, reportedly. We see the three of them, they're riding up the escalator and everything appears to be fine. About an hour later, we see Brian, Clint, talking to two girls on the security camera footage, and we see Brian just walk away. And this is the last known sighting we have of Brian when he walked away. The bar was soon closing. Generally, bars close at 2 a.m. They have last call. They kick everyone out of the bar. We see Meredith and Clint riding down the escalator, but we don't see Brian. Clint and Meredith reportedly called Brian and tried to get a hold of him. They weren't able to get in touch with him. No one really knew what had happened. So the two of them just left. Maybe thought Brian, he got a ride home. He went to some other place. He walked away. He found his own way home and they just left him. It is reported that Clint and Brian had some kind of argument. And I don't really have many feelings about that, but some have cited that as important information. Clint and Meredith, they leave, and people are just trying to contact Brian. His dad is trying to contact him. Alexis is trying to contact him, his girlfriend, and nobody can get a hold of him. Some people think this is an April Fool's Day prank he's playing on them since it's April Fool's Day, and no one knows what to do, and they just keep calling him. And they figure he must show up for his flight on that Monday, because obviously there's a lot of money that costs to get them to Florida and lodging and just money to spend. So they figure he must show up on Monday. But the flight comes on Monday and he's not at the airport. And that's when he was reported to the police. People are like, his family must have felt there's something seriously wrong for him to miss the flight. And that's when he was reported to the police. It is reported that the police searched the Ugly Tuna Saloon. They searched the surrounding area, and they weren't able to find any clues. The only thing we have left is this security footage that shows Brian walking off screen in what appears to be in the bar again. And basically, the case has been cold ever since then. There's been some pockets of information that have came up. Alexis supposedly called Brian's phone every single night for several months. And one night, the phone actually did ring, and it was dinged off a tower around 14 miles from the bar. Technicians have been reportedly just said that was just a glitch. I don't really think there's too much you can make from that. This was in 2006, so the phones didn't have the technology that they do have now. It appeared that Brian didn't have GPS on his phone, so whatever we could take away from that, whatever evidence we can get from his phone, it appears to be limited. Clint was asked to take a polygraph, which he denied. He did not accept taking a polygraph. He refused to take one. He did get a lawyer, and Clint has been relatively quiet regarding this case. Randy Shaffer, Brian's dad, feels Clint knows more than he's letting on, and feels it is suspicious that he is refusing to take a polygraph. It's been reported that the two women who were last seen talking to Brian and Clint were never asked to take a polygraph, which is kind of unusual, I feel, and one of the head-scratching elements of this case. One of the things in this case that has, just kind of thinking about it now, is there was probably 36 hours went by before this was actually a police investigation, which obviously, if something did happen in the bar, it would have given them ample time to clean up or dispose of evidence. But it is reported that the Ugly Tuna Saloon was very helpful in helping the police search for Brian. Essentially, besides that phone call, there was really no important information, breakthroughs in the case that went on for years. A couple years later, Randy Shaffer, Brian's dad, tragically died in a windstorm that reportedly killed also 5 other people. And he died without ever knowing what happened to his son. And it's just one of these things that kind of makes the case even more mysterious. His dad dying in a very tragic, random accident. And when his dad died, now both his parents are now deceased. And there's one less person that would probably spend ample time trying to find out what happened to Brian, going on podcasts, putting himself in front of a camera, just trying to bring awareness to his case. That person who would likely be doing that is now deceased, which doesn't help Brian's case. What's kind of strange about this case is there's not really a family member that appears to be putting themselves out there, or a close friend who is really someone directly connected to this case, does not really seem to be putting themselves out there and going on media appearances like you see in some other cases, like the Jennifer Kessie or Kyle Fleischman. In 2016, the Columbus Dispatch did a profile piece on Alexis, Brian's girlfriend at the time, and they just kind of asked her reflections on the case. And it appears she has moved on and appears to have made peace about what has happened in her life. She did get married and had 2 kids and did become a doctor, an OBGYN, and she appears to be content with her life and is obviously hoping for a resolution, but it doesn't seem like this is the most significant thing in her life at this point. In 2019, there was a homeless person that someone felt looked like Brian Shaffer, and they took a photo of him, and then the authorities did do an analysis on the photo, and they did determine it was not Brian Shaffer. Then in 2021, the police released an age progression photo of a Brian looking to be 42 years old and what he would appear to look like, and that was passed around the internet to try to bring about leads in the case. And as of 2022, these are the major facts of the case, of what I've kind of just discussed, that the case still remains unsolved and there's not really any big breakthroughs in terms of leads. So all we can do is theorize of what happened. My theory is that Brian left the Ugly Tuna Saloon in the back fire escape exit. And he went onto the street and he was attacked, and he may have died, he may have been kidnapped, but somehow he was taken away and most likely murdered, and the body was disposed of in a place that would not easily be found. Some people have theorized Brian ran away to start a new life. Some people feel the actions he took, meeting with his dad, calling his girlfriend the night he disappeared. He even reportedly told Alexis that you should find someone else to be with. I don't see him disappearing. It's incredibly hard to pull off. There's so much media speculation about this case. Unless he significantly changed his appearance, I don't see him being able to pull this off. He had no special forces training. He had no survivalness training. Any kind of special training like that, I just couldn't see him doing this. Some people believe he committed suicide. I don't see that. I think they would have found him. Some people thought he could have fell into like a pit, in the construction pit, and he was buried in cement. I have a hard time believing someone wouldn't see that. I feel the little clues we have in this case probably points to somehow he was attacked and taken away. It was reported he was drinking that night, and he was probably heavily intoxicated if he was going around taking shots. This case is obviously one of the most strangest and scariest disappearance cases I've ever seen. We have a guy walking off of the camera frame and appearing to disappear into nothing. It's very scary. It's concerning. One of the things it points to is always don't let too much time go by before you contact people. If you're going on a night out, always make sure you call them to let you know when you're back home safely. And that's really all we can take away with this, and how to be safe out there. And obviously, I hope this video will lead to some kind of solution to bring closure to the Brian Shaffer case, and obviously give Derek Shaffer, Brian's brother, some kind of resolution. This had to be incredibly traumatic for him. In the span of 3 years, he lost his mother, brother, and his father. Hopefully this video will help bring some kind of resolution to the Shaffer family, and thank you for watching.